Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director Events Programming at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Divya Ramaswamy. She is the VP of Growth at Super.com. Hey, Divya, welcome.
Hey, Lisa. Thanks for having me. It's lovely meeting you.
No, I'm so glad to have you. I think Super.com it's a cool concept. So I think that there's a lot. I mean, I'm sure what you're doing is exciting for you, but I want to obviously get into more what brought you there and anything like that. So first, I want to just talk about. I know that Super.com. You were recently, Snap Commerce bought you guys or invested or renamed the company, if
We
however.
rebranded, correct. We used to be called Snap Travel and now we're Super.com.
Got it. So I like super.com better than but but one of the headlines announcing the change, it really said said Snap Commerce grabs its cape, as in super cape, to become super. I guess I didn't have to explain it since Doug did. Anyway, I want to ask you, if you were to grab your cape, what would be your superpower? What do you think your superpower is now?
Oh my God, that's a tough one. I have two ideas. One is I would love to be able to talk to my cats. Anybody that knows me, I'm obsessed with cats and my cats specifically. So I would love to be able to communicate effectively with four-legged creatures of all forms. I spend a lot of my life wondering what's going on in their little heads. So that would be brilliant. And it would also be, I would love to teleport. I think especially just with family and friends. I've grown up and I've lived in so many different places. So I have
Yeah.
friends and family across the globe, and sometimes you just really miss seeing them. So if could go from point A to B without having to worry about it, that would be great. Flew
Well,
power,
that's back to the
something
cat
like
thing.
that.
But where would you, right now, if you had to teleport one place, where would it be? Right this very moment.
Oh, I'd go and see my parents.
And where are they?
They're in Bangalore, in India.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah,
very
I'd love
nice.
to do that.
You could then teleport them back and they could be part of this
Yes. Yes,
conversation.
that would be brilliant.
That would be awesome. Well, so I have to go back to the cat. So how many, what are their names?
I have two. One's kind of behind me. I have portraits of them in my office, and my colleagues tease me saying, "This is my cat shrine." She's my older one. He's a black and white tabby, and then I have a sassy black cat called Bagheera.
Big Eater?
Bagheera,
Oh,
like from
Bagheera. I'm like,
Jungle.
oh,
Yeah,
Big Eater. Okay.
I do call him Bugs or Bugsy, so it works.
Well, all right. So now those are the superpowers you want to have. What would you say your superpower is that you actually do have?
Mm, I think consistency. I tend to be a very, very consistent person, and that's how I like to approach situations. So, a lot of patience, a lot of kindness
Mhm.
that hopefully comes across in difficult situations when I work with people. I think that would definitely be a superpower, just the ability to see things from different people's perspective and have that empathy lens with everything that I do.
No, I mean, obviously I think especially in the marketing industry, one, you need to be able to have that for consumers in general, so you know
Yes.
your audience, but also you're working with so many personalities within the
Mhm.
industry. So to really be able to navigate that must be certainly a superpower, must be really beneficial to you.
Yes. And I hope it's beneficial for other people as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So, okay, so I want to say you have worked at Google.
Mhm.
You also worked on the travel site Wago.com, Home Away, City. So you've been a number of really fantastic brands that you've worked with. Talk about when you were graduating, when you were just finishing school. What did you envision for yourself, and how did you go from there to where you are today?
I was relatively clueless. I was in a, I always got really good grades and I always knew I wanted to study a lot. I was a bookworm. I still am to a major extent. I was obsessed with studying. I was one of those few people that was not stressed out by exams, particularly. I quite enjoyed them. But I also stepped into college really not knowing what I wanted to do. I started writing at a really young age, so I assumed I'd do something with writing, either continuing to be a journalist or a novelist. But it was just one of those things that I'm like, I'll study, I'll get a few degrees and then figure out what to do in life. And Google happened, and it definitely changed my perspective for the better. I always wanted to be in a creative space, and here I was working with lots of data, which was something I'd run from all my life. So it was an interesting juxtaposition where I could be creative with what I was doing, but I could also see the outcome of everything that I was doing.
Was
So
that
that
hard for you to get? I mean, because I think there's two sides of the brains we say a lot of the time, and not
yes.
necessarily creative goes with data, that kind
Mhm.
of analytical side. So, did you need to adjust, or were you surprised that it kind of came naturally?
I was surprised that it came naturally. But if I think back of everything my mother and my brother used to tell me, they're like, you're good at math, you're good with data, I just don't know why you don't like it.
Hmm.
So I guess it just came together in a peculiar sort of way. And now it's also really nice because we can track everything. We can look at the whole picture when we're in the marketing and digital space.
Hmm.
So you can see something that you did today, yield results tomorrow or in a couple of weeks, which is very, very different from how marketing used to work before. So
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
So talking about that, even if someone came to you and wanted to be you and we're asking you, because it sounds like, especially today where everything's digital now, it's not just digital marketing anymore. And do you think for someone who's maybe just graduating or even setting themselves in college and they want to have this kind of career, would you then advise them to use both sides of their brains, or should they focus where they're good at and then maybe develop? Like, how would you advise that person who was saying, I want to become you?
I think if it one, I would say don't try to become me or anyone, just be the best version of yourself. But I also think it's a continuum, right? Because there are different ways to approach the same problem or challenge, and multiple ways could be right. Because a decision is ultimately a decision. What you do after it makes it right or wrong. So
Mhm.
I would say worry about the outcomes less and focus on the process. And there are certain things we can be really good at. There are certain things that others could be good at for us. So choose which areas are your strengths, play to them, and worry less about areas you're not very familiar with because people will help. And then you'll get to learn along the way. So
Yeah.
start small and then build yourself into what you want to be.
Yeah. And I think also people will learn, as you said, learn along the way, but you can learn just enough. It's there
Exactly.
are certain things like even doing this, I speak with people about programmatic and data, and I'm very much creative side, like that's where
Mhm.
I've always been, but I learn about it enough to then, as you said, have then other people then can help me along the way, or then they're the ones who need to to talk about it, or so I feel like you can surprise yourself by sometimes I'm surprised at what I understand, to be perfectly honest.
Yes, it's like one of my colleagues put it really, really well. She said, I know enough to be dangerous. It's like that's perfect.
Yeah, no, it's completely true. All right, so sticking with the advice side of it now, 12-year-old Divya, what
Mhm.
would you give yourself at 12-ish age? What kind of advice? What do you wish you knew then?
Um, Two things again. I would have liked her to learn the importance of saying no and being comfortable with it.
Hmm.
I was a very quiet child, which worked perfectly for me because all I wanted was my books and my stuffed toys when I could have them. But I also think I was just so eager to say yes all the time to everything. Part of it was wanting to try different things, I guess, and move out of my comfort zone. But part of it was also a lot of conflict avoidance. And honestly, in my 12-year-old life, I did not have conflicts, but again, perception. So I was like, yeah. And I think that's really important as you get into adulthood as well, being able to say no effectively and make that space and time for yourself.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing. And second, kind of contradictory, but don't be afraid of trying new things.
Hmm.
And yeah, those are the two things that I would tell her.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Dubai.
You did. Okay. So would you say that was different? It's like when you moved here to the US, what would you say was the hardest transition? Or were you prepared just through learnings and as you got older and maybe learned to say no and learn to try new things? And was that part of you, coming to another country, learning, being able to try new things?
I've so I am in Canada. And I've lived in multiple different places, which I think has contributed to that. So I grew up in Dubai, then I studied and worked for a bit in India. Then I came to Canada. Then I went to Singapore and then I came back to Canada. So I do like
Wow.
being in different places, doing different things. And that's definitely helped along the journey. And I also come from a family where we're just so open to new experiences, new things, and we can talk about everything and we communicate very, very effectively. So it was not an actual barrier, more just from the perspective of when you are so small and you're dependent, you think the world's just this really big place and it's inaccessible.
Yeah, no, and I'm assuming because what we talked about at the top, how you have an understanding of different people. You feel like that's kind of your superpower to be able to empathize. And I would think having lived in all the different countries and seeing all the different kinds of people out there in the different ways, has that sort of, if not maybe triggered it, but maybe added to it that you have that sort of superpower kind of ability.
Definitely, right? Because there's so much exposure to different cultures, different styles of communication, and it just helps me learn and get better, hopefully, with different situations, different kinds of people.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. So, what is it do you think people get wrong about you when they first meet you? What do they maybe assume that isn't quite accurate?
They think I'm really serious, and I'm always surprised when I hear that because I can be quite a goofball. But yes, I do tend to be quieter unless I get to know people really well. So I'm a small group person. I like to spend a lot of time with people I'm very comfortable and familiar with.
Hmm.
So yes, it takes a while for me to warm up, but I would never associate myself with being serious. So it does come as a surprise.
Yeah. Well, as you said, if you're quiet initially, then they're not seeing you. Because, I mean, are you quiet because you're shy about talking? Are you quiet because you're more taking things in and then sort of,
The latter, yeah. I like to listen before I talk.
yeah, no, I'm the same way. People have said that, usually I'm snobby. So maybe because I'm taller, I'm not little. Whereas you're short, then
I
maybe,
am little, yes.
yeah.
And that's the funny part of remote work as well, because every time I meet people, one of the things we do is we're like, how tall are you? And when I tell people that I am not, they're always surprised the benefits of standing and working. I just look a lot taller than I am, but I've made peace with it. Good things come in portable packages.
Oh my gosh, when I was in high school, I was the only tall one. All my friends were like 5 feet, 5'2", I think was the tallest. And I was constantly, because I was like almost 5'8", or maybe 5'7" in seventh grade. And so, and I'm still that, like, that's basically my height, 5'8". And I would find the most creative ways of standing to make myself short. I hated being tall. So I think we look at things, you know, the grass is greener. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Always. Yeah.
So I don't feel for you being shorter because I wanted that when I was younger. That was my genie. If I had a genie, I'm shorter. I also want to be blonde. But
You're good.
so what kind of situations do you think you thrive in?
I think I'm adaptable enough that I will get along in most kind of situations. But I do really, really prize stability in terms of thought process and in terms of approaching different things. I'm a huge fan of consistency, and it's kind of contradictory considering I've worked in the tech space, I've worked with startups where you just see so much change. So, but I also don't see stability and flexibility as being opposites. I think they can function really, really well together. So it's more in terms of having that mindset towards being able to change, but also rationalizing why the changes are happening, what the expected outcomes are. And
Well,
that would be my happy place.
but I also think when you mentioned doing startups or doing these kind of jobs that, or even just marketing itself, isn't necessarily a non-risk
No.
career, and so I think having those kind of things that you can't control more risky, maybe that consistency is how you get through it and keep your balance.
Yes, absolutely. Because I also tend to look at things in terms of controllables and uncontrollables. And when you really put it in perspective, there's such few things we can actually control. Pretty much everything goes into the bucket of things that are just going to happen and you have to react. So where I can be more proactive, where I can expect things to happen, I would just like to be prepared.
Yeah, makes sense. Has there been a challenge that you faced that, or I guess just what's the biggest challenge you've ever faced, and how did you get through it? Like, do you need to stop and assess? Were you do you dive into it? Did you ready to give up? And then talk about maybe that challenge that you really feel like you grew from.
I think one of the roles that I've had, I was one of, or the youngest on the leadership team, and it was an interesting place to navigate because I also have this mindset that I have to really, really work hard if something is difficult and I have to make it work for me.
Hmm.
But I think by the end of it, I realize that not everything is worth fighting for. And especially if the conflict is between your peace of mind and sanity and everything else, peace of mind always comes first. And that I think just made me a lot more self-aware of what I value. It reinforced my positive biases, but it also gave me a litany of things that I absolutely will not stand for.
Yeah.
So it was a learning experience, but it was also one that I wish I hadn't had, just because there's happy discomfort, which just makes you learn a
Yeah.
whole lot of really good things. And then there's just discomfort.
Yeah. And that was one that maybe you could, you
Yeah.
could, but as you said, I mean, it's where you are today. Like each one of those challenges,
Yeah.
things that were good or bad, it's where you.
Everything contributes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all meant to be. I do believe in those kind of statements, as corny as they are. I do think,
Yeah.
you can have that heartache, but then when you look back on it,
Mhm.
there's one thing I looked back on, I still haven't figured out the the value in it. I'm still waiting to figure that one out. But for the most part, I do
Yeah.
believe in that. So what do you like to do on your own, aside with your cats? But when you're not with work or family, or just that's your time to be by yourself and
Mhm.
enjoy, or whatever.
Um, I love reading. I love writing, baking, cooking, dancing. So everything that does not involve being in front of a screen, really. Though I do type to write, I don't write anymore. But yes, I like to be away from technology, on my feet, possibly be outdoors when it's not snowing and threatening to drown me in it. Just stuff where I can think, but my brain does not have to always be on.
So yeah, I like that too. So, but in the writing thing, I'm definitely more creative. I find pen to paper. Like I'll even, now work wise, it's time wise, you just have to do it right to the computer. But in
Yeah.
general, I'm trying to write creatively. I start that way and then sort of transfer it. So, but I agree with the whole writing and kind of finding your little space. I have to say, when we talk about writing, which I was so impressed, I didn't know this about you, but you are an author. You wrote the book
Yes.
Monsoon Touch. Now, I want to read the description. It was, well, first of all, it was published 2 years ago. And I mean, even before talking about the book, congratulations. I mean,
Thank you.
how much, like, people start books, it's just, there's such a process there, especially when you have a full-time career outside of it. What did that mean to you when it finally published?
It was amazing, because I had writer's block for the longest time. And it was not a fun one because I started writing when I was 5 or 6, and then I kind of just stopped after about, yeah, for a while. So I hadn't written in about 8 years.
Wow.
So when I did get back to it, it was interesting because the words just came and they refused to stop. So I'm like, okay, this is my moment. I will just continue writing. So I actually finished one of my first works in 2019, which happens to be getting published in the next 2 weeks, which I'm
Wow.
also very excited
What's
about.
the name of it? Can you say?
Say again?
What's the name of the book that's getting published?
Yeah, it's called Love at First Bite.
Oh, okay.
And it's about a young girl's journey in the corporate world. So I started to write again with something that was a little more familiar.
Hmm.
So that made me very happy. And the Monster Touch was really, really fun to do as well because I just moved from Singapore back to Toronto mid-pandemic. So I was quarantining all by myself
Oh,
in this tiny apartment and I had to make myself useful. And I
hmm.
started writing again and it was great fun. I was
Yeah.
very excited when it came
Well,
in.
I mean, kudos. I mean, not only one, but two books. So
Thank
that's
you.
awesome. So but the with going into the Monsoon Touch, I want to say, because there was a review. And one of the reviews said, to read The Monsoon Touch is to learn how family often makes us who we are. Mira's journey, the protagonist, is one of survival when what you love most is dramatically upended. So, obviously, it's great. That's a great review. So, again, congratulations. But I want to know, in terms of what is the most significant way that your family has made you who you are today?
I think I owe everything to them. As I was saying a little earlier, we're a very close-knit family and we just enjoy each other's company. And my brother and I were raised in an environment where everything was, we could speak about everything. There were no mental constraints. We were both voracious readers, so we were just surrounded by books and encyclopedias, and we'd always spend quantity and quality time together. And my mom also writes. So there are three of us that write, and all of us read. So it was just a great, very safe and happy and loving environment to grew up in, and I'm very fortunate, touch wood. And that obviously just goes with me everywhere
Mhm.
because there's so much love. There's that security blanket. Even now, if I'm just having a bad day, I can call them up and we'll talk about everything. We'll talk about nothing. And it's just great to know that there's always a set of people that have your back.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure it gives you a strength to like do those things, whether moving to another country, whether publishing a book, putting it out
Mhm.
there. I find things that I'm not used to doing. Like your career, you got it down, you do it, it's the norm. You go off out of that comfort zone, whether it be writing a book or whatever it may be. I feel like I'm much more insecure about putting that out to the world. I'm curious, did you ever feel that way when you initially publishing?
No, my mom has this funny story about how I started writing. I was an absolute chatterbox when I was a child, but mostly with her. So poor thing, she had to tolerate it. And I think there was this thing about where she's like, can you be quiet for 5 minutes or something? And apparently I got really mad and I decided to write a poem about her. And it was very flattering. It's like, I'm surprised it was flattering, but fine, this is something I can do when I really enjoy. But it's also I can get a really objective perspective from them. They will be very kind about it, but we're not, it's not this environment where you have to be right all the time, or I have to like everything that you do. We can completely agree to disagree. And there's always that level of respect and affection that lets you do what you want, lets you be the kind of person that you are. And I
Mhm.
think that really, really helps because not being judged or not having to worry about being judged is just a huge, huge boost.
Yeah. And so the fact that you weren't judged by your family or never felt that you were judged by your family, then does that make it, even though now you're being judged by the public? So, but you don't necessarily worry about that. I mean, does that transcend over?
Yeah, not at all. I mostly just write for myself. I have a story that I want to narrate and I can put pen to paper and I can write it, and that makes me the happiest.
Yeah.
Obviously, if someone says something really mean, it's going to sit with me for a while and I will overthink it to the end of the world, but I will get over it.
Yeah. No, like we all do. Oh my gosh. It just like stays there. It could be
Yeah.
20,000 yays and then just that one negative
Yeah.
and it's like,
It's exactly the definition of those intrusive 4 a.m. thoughts. But that one person said this, and then you're like, no, let it be.
yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great confidence. I get a little, like I said, if it's what I do, whatever, I'm not worried about. Like it's just that's my thing. So you like it, you don't, whatever it may be. But when it's something
Yeah.
that I'm not as sure about, I do kind of get that, So, but I need to hang out with your family a little more,
Oh
so
yeah, everybody
then
should
I
hang
can
out with them.
then I can get that back. So I want to also with now Mira, again, the protagonist of your book, part in that she lost something really special. It was dramatically upended her life. Has something like that ever happened to you? And it doesn't have to necessarily be loss, but something that really dramatically upended your life. And how did you then handle that?
Not particularly, not that dramatic at all. I think, but just choosing to move or choosing to be in different places at different points in my life have been interesting enough. positive changes, but sometimes it does feel like an upheaval because you leave behind friends,
Yeah.
even basic acts of packing, like leaving behind furniture, leaving behind things that you've had as part of your life, even though they're inanimate objects. I think that does change perspective as we go through life, but no, touch wood again, no crazy happenings.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, especially not what Mira went through. So we
Oh
won't
no.
we won't give that away, although I think it's in some of the write-ups. But um, so also sticking with Mira, she finds pleasure in food and in creating recipes. Is there something that you truly find pleasure in what you do, and that inspires you?
Dancing does. I really, really like Bollywood dancing, and it's just super fun, upbeat, and the feet move, all parts of you move, and then it's just a great endorphin rush, which is amazing. And baking does. I think just the act of kneading and mixing is so de-stressing, and you're actually using your hands. Like that's one of the things that I keep missing about um, having a tech job. I don't do enough with my hands, and I think that's a really nice feeling.
So when you're baking, because they always say the difference of baking or bakers and cooks, that bakers you have to follow, and this might go along with your tech and data side of you, but you have to follow the
Yeah,
recipe. Whereas I'm
yeah,
not that person. I'm the person who takes a little of every recipe and makes it my own. And I
yeah.
then taste it, oh, needs this or whatever. So I would not be good on the baking side. But how, all right, obviously the way you were shaking your head, you are that kind of baker. But what do you love to bake? Like, is there a preference, a certain pie, a cake, cookies?
Oh, I love cake. I think if I could eat cake every day, I actually like baking much more than I like eating, but there's something about cakes. I mostly cook and bake for others. But yes, if I could eat cake every single day, oh my God, I would be so thrilled.
Well, yeah, that would be. I wouldn't want to bake it every day, but you actually, I'll take the cookies when you bake the chocolate chip cookies.
Done.
I'm in there. I'm good for that one. Do you bake anything for your cats? Like you know how because you can bake pets now have like dogs. I
Yeah.
don't know about cats so much, but I've always for my dog I used to go to bakeries like and they would be able to get little treats for him.
My cats are not particularly food motivated, and the good thing is they don't care for human food at all. They're happy with their fish and little treats, so I'm good there.
Very cool. Do you have a guilty pleasure? I mean, we've talked a lot about things that are making you happy and your dance and all that, but I'm just curious, something that's more decadent or something that's more, I mean, you could eat cake every day, or like maybe it's that binging a certain show, or like just something that, again, it's sort of finding your space by yourself and doing something that you maybe will regret the next day because you ate so much cake or you ate so much whatever.
Sleeping in. I tend to wake up like clockwork and I sleep well, don't get me wrong, but there are times when I would love to be that person who could sleep until noon. Not, not in a really long time. I'll just wake up and then I'll have to be like feed the cats or do something, but just this concept of having to be productive, however I choose to define that, I would love for that to not be the case. I would genuinely like to just have periods of doing nothing and really, really be not doing anything. Even when I think I'm doing nothing, I'm thinking about the next 10 things that I need to do. So that would be amazing. I know some people do it so effectively, and I know I should not be envious, but I am in equal parts envious as well as really, really admired it.
Yeah, no, well, I used to be able to sleep. I think when you were younger, we can. I don't know, maybe you never did, but I could sleep till noon. Now, no, there's no way I could. But I do have to say, I have lazy mornings where I might turn on the TV because that's my way of not thinking. Like if I wake up in the middle of the night, if I turn the TV on and just I close my eyes, I don't watch it, but it's that noise, you know, it's
Noise.
that white noise. And then I won't think of anything. Whereas if it's silent, I'm going to think about, okay, what do I need to do tomorrow? What was this? What was that? And then I never fall
Mhm.
asleep. So I guess that would be so I'm a little in the middle, but I can be that person who does
So
nothing.
you're basically using the external noise to drown out
My
you thinking so you don't have to think.
yes,
That could work. I should
yeah,
try it.
yeah. You have to put
I
something
should
on
try
the
it.
you have to put something on you've already watched. So it had to be like a
You
repeat.
know what's happening.
Yes. So you don't want to see it because if it's a show that you've never watched, then you're going to be caught up into you're going to want to watch it and then you're going to be wide awake. You got to watch it.
Yeah.
Whereas So, or I mean, a podcast could work, but again, a podcast is probably if it's a newer one, if you're interested in hearing what they're saying. You need to put on something that you don't care about, and it's just that noise. So I'll put like old series on that I've seen, whatever. Anyway,
That's
that's
a
my
great idea.
that's my secret. When I wake up in the middle of the night and
Thank
can't go
you.
back to sleep. So, all right. So, when do you feel most alive? Like, what's your happy? I mean, we've talked about a lot of that, but I mean more in the day when you come home and what you've accomplished, or like what gives you that ease that you came in and you can be like, okay, this is good, and you're feeling excited or whatever it may be.
I think when I'm on my feet, I just
Well,
find if I'm walking a lot, for example, I love walking. So the more I'm on my feet, actually, the better I just feel in general about everything. I could be having the worst day, but I get a walk, I enjoy some sunshine, and it's just turned into the most amazing day.
is that
Always has the ability to make me feel excellent.
yeah, no, I think getting outside for sure, because we can get so caught up in the work, and then once you get out, it's like, wow, there's something else out here.
Yeah.
I'm curious if that's why you stand when, in general, you say you stand usually when you're taking your work calls or whatnot. Is
Yeah, I think I'm standing most of the day.
is it are you moving around? Is that part of that? Does it help you think more?
Yeah, for sure. And it just gives me the sense, if not, freedom of movement is really, really important. So it just gives me the sense of not being confined or having to sit in one place. But the flip side of that is now I just don't know how to sit properly. So even when the few odd days I go into office or I'm in meetings and I'm sitting, I'm so fidgety and I'm not a fidgety person, but sliding out of the chair or readjusting my arms. So I think I need to get a better balance now.
Get one of those balls. Then
Oh,
you'll
those
really
are
get the balance.
amazing. Those are amazing. When I used to work in Google, I used to sit on them. It's
Yeah.
great for the core.
So did you, I mean, I can see that it would definitely be good in terms of helping to tone the core muscles.
Yeah.
Was it also good on the back, like all the ergonomic things that they say about? Like, did you feel like
Yeah.
you felt
It's
better?
an instant posture improvement because you have to sit ramrod straight, but you learn how to not strain your back. It's awesome.
Yeah, did you notice as I'm talking about it, I have been like this, and I'm
Yeah, you just went like that.
like, are you normally like this? And now on the ball. Like
Yep. Sounds about right.
all right, my last question is, so we have those big goals, those, that we want to do 5, 10 years from now, or what we want to achieve. But what's your smaller goal, the goals, maybe you set for yourself each week or each day, or just something you want to accomplish?
Yeah, so there are three things that I always like to do in a day. Eat at least one good healthy meal sitting down and not just rush through it, like enjoy and savor every single bite. And enjoy that hopefully with my husband or my family and have a meal together. Get enough movement in a day, like active movement. So getting a workout or a dance session or something like that. And three is just really spend time squishing the cats. Honestly, it's just they're so soft and they're so squishy and they smell so nice. They're gonna be tired of me by the end of it, but no, just really the small things. No big goals, no crazy audacious things that I want to do, just the really small things.
Yeah, and I find, I mean, for me, it was dog, but I see like I love cats too, but I just the petting of the dog, like it just
Yes.
releases all the angst or anything that you didn't even realize maybe that you had,
Mhm.
you know,
Exactly.
you get relaxed.
Yep.
Yeah, you find the same. It's just how can you
Yeah.
not? And when they purr,
Exactly. And then they just look up at you with those soulful eyes that you just feel yourself drowning in.
yeah, no, I totally agree. So people are like, get these animal lovers. I
Well,
think
that's all I want to do, really. Just be surrounded by cute animals all my life. Dogs, cats, alpacas, mini cows.
yeah.
Get them in.
Well, I think people I mean, again, but like when I'm at the dog park and I'm watching all the dogs run around and play, I'm like, this is where we should be bringing people who are having mental issues in terms of, they're stressed or they're this or they're that. Like, I feel like it would just relax and you can't not laugh. You can't not smile or enjoy
Yeah.
it. And so when they're going through anything that's, hard or difficult,
Mhm.
that I think it would be just, even if it's just for that moment, it just releases so much. I think it brings out, because then when you're smiling laughing, it kind of continues on to the rest, you know, like you might have
It's
been, I
very
don't know.
contagious, right? Because you just see these creatures who are so happy, who are so trusting, and they're every second it just looks like they're having a ball. And how can you not? How's the mood not going to be uplifted with it?
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, Divya, thank you so much. It was truly a
Okay.
pleasure. It was really nice to meet you. And I really am so happy you were able to share all your stories.
Yeah, it was lovely meeting you as well. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, no, we're glad to. And also, as I always say, thank you. But I also want, if you have any women marketers who you want to sort of have the curtain pull back, please let me know. I will do my best to get them.
Oh,
Thanks.
absolutely. Thank
And
you.
yeah, and Divya, if you know anyone, send them my way as well. So, but thanks.
Done. Right. Bye bye.